got something to say? Huh? Murray says hi. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of
Crue Trime.
Crue Trime. Crue Trime. My name is Sarah, and what I do here is tell you a terrible story to ruin your day and put on my makeup at the same time. So if that sounds like fun to you, you are in the right place. So make sure that you subscribe to this channel, turn on the notifications, and then that way you'll never miss one of my terrible stories. Today's terrible story is a special request from my hubsies. Tyler loves to skateboard. He's out here living his best life, pretending that he's 16 years old and beating up his body. But he's not like other teenagers. He's in his 40s. I never heard of this story, but apparently everyone in the skateboard scene has. So let's get on with it. This is the story of Gator Rogowski. If you are interested to know any of the products that I use in the video, because I don't really feature them, except for now, look down in the description box because everything is linked. Mark Anthony Gator Rogowski was an American professional skateboard star in the 1980s. At age 16, he won his first major contest, and he was plastered all over sports magazines, promotional videos, TV commercials. His rise to fame was like a rocket ship. It was really a dream come true. He was raking in big time money, doing the thing he loved the most. He was headlining national tours. He had bought a huge house. He had a beautiful longtime girlfriend. He was super famous in the skateboarding world, and he was enjoying all the spoils of fame and fortune. So, why has he been rotting in Donovan State Prison for the last 32 years? I'm glad you asked. Mark Anthony Rogowski was born on August 10th, 1966 in Brooklyn, New York. His parents divorced when he was just a toddler, so he and his older brother moved with their mother to Escondido, California. Escondido is just north of San Diego. It's a very suburban, think strip malls, middle class, surfer kids. Mark was a very rambunctious and athletic child. He loved playing Little League softball, but the structure and rules were a little stifling for his free spirit personality. When he found skateboarding at around age 7, that was it. He loved it. He lived and breathed skateboarding, and the kids at the skate parks accepted him. Quick history on skateboarding. Skateboarding was born in the 1950s when surfers in Southern California were looking for something to do when there weren't any waves. Roller skate wheels were first attached to wooden boards, and then surfers would like sidewalk surf. By the early to mid 1970s, the boards got smaller, the wheels got better, and the surfers, now skaters, took to the Escondido Reservoir and empty swimming pools. Think Z-Boys and Dogtown.
Straight out of Dogtown, KAI.
Well, Mark didn't have a father figure at home, so his older brother became very influential and encouraged him to take skateboarding seriously. You know, practice, put in the time, but also have some fun. And Mark was naturally talented, obviously, with an aggressive skating style. He was the perfect blend of fun-loving, rebellious, and charming. San Diego was like the epicenter of skateboarding in America, so Mark was really in the right place at the right time. So Mark was coming up in the skateboarding scene at the same time as other 80s superstars like Christian Hosoi and Tony Hawk. Skateboarding was the thing at the time, especially for boys. And it wasn't just the sport of it, it was lifestyle. Clothing, shoes, equipment, posters, stickers, music, videos, magazines, lingo, and this was before video games. I mean, it seems kind of silly to describe it as popular. Of course, it's still wildly popular today, but at the time, this was fairly new still. You know, it had only been a mainstream activity for like the last 10 years or so. So Mark developed his skills at the skate park, and he found his tribe of like-minded skater bros. They skated hard, but they were having fun. And Mark's talent for vertical skateboarding, like ramps and bowls, was obvious.
How did you get the nickname Gator?
I don't know. My name came about in about 1979. A bunch of locals at the skate park gave me a nickname after Wally Inouye. He was one of my skate heroes back then, so I was kind of his protege. And since that cartoon Wally Gator was out at the time, they just started calling me Gator. Wally Gator.
That's where it comes from. So Mark Gator Rogowski was at every skate contest, every skate park, everywhere. And he was good. When he was 14 years old, Gator was picked up by the local skate park team and a few sponsors. Oh, hi, Murray. Hi. Oh, hi. You want to say hi to the people? Yeah. Murray says hi. Where was I? Yeah, so by age 14, Gator was officially pro. Every issue of Thrasher magazine or Skateboard magazine had some kind of Gator feature. I mean, he was winning big time.
Oops. Winning.
And he was making big time money. He was formally sponsored by Vision. It was a huge skateboard merchandising company. And soon there were Gator posters, stickers, shirts, fanny packs, skateboards, all with like his signature like swirly print. You've seen this before. And the fans, you know, these skateboard bros and girls, they couldn't get enough of him. And he was a good looking kid, you know, handsome, lean, charismatic. Basically, Gator had it all. Talent, looks, a dream career, a ton of money. He was like a rock star in the skateboard world. And like any true rock star, Gator partied like one, and he had the ego of one. He was drinking and snorting and smoking all the things. You could not tell him shit.
I'm not supposed to worry about stuff like that. I'm the talent.
There's this one story when he was about like 20 years old. He was supposed to compete in some skate contest at Mount Trashmore in Virginia Beach, but he forgot to bring his credential with him, and the place was filled with fans and security, so you can't just wander in. It's fenced. I mean, it is fenced, but it's a chain link fence, so the fans inside could see what I'm about to tell you. So anyways, Gator rolls up and he doesn't have his credential, and the police officer's like, "Excuse me, you can't just go in here, guy." And he's like, "Oh no, bro, it's cool. I'm up next. I'm total stick skater, bro." He did not sound like that. Anyways, well, the cop put his hands on him like, "No, you can't go in there." And then Gator just like punched the cop right in the face. That's not gonna fly. So now there's this kerfuffle in the parking lot, and like I said, the fans inside could see what was going on in the parking lot. So as the police are arresting Gator, you know, for assaulting a police officer, the fans, these kids, start picking up rocks and throwing them at the cops and like breaking out the windows of the police car. If Gator's persona and his charisma and rock star status wasn't already established, you know, he became an icon after that day. So you get it. Gator is flying high, he's successful, rich, and wild. He had no shortage of little girlies throwing themselves at him. And when Gator was on a nationwide skate tour, at a stop in Phoenix, Arizona, he met a couple of teenage beauties, best friends Brandy McLean and Jessica Bergston, both at the time 15 years old. So Gator partied with Brandy essentially all weekend. He was like 18, 19 years old, and she's like 15 years old, so I'm squinting. Whatever, they began a long distance puppy love courtship of sorts. And this long distance, like phone calls and cards and letters type of relationship went on for a while, and then Gator started to fly Brandy out to San Diego to visit him. And apparently Brandy's parents were like cool with this. Anyways, this eventually led to Gator asking Brandy to move in with him at this house that he had recently purchased up in the mountains. She was 17 years old at this time. So apparently this area, Fallbrook, California, up in the mountains, became pretty popular for many of these pro skaters. Must have been cheap, I guess, but they were all buying up houses with land. And Tony Hawk actually had purchased a large ranch and built up all these like elaborate ramps and things to practice. And Gator bought a big, beautiful home and intended to do the same thing. Now, 17-year-old Brandy and 21-year-old Gator are playing house up in Fallbrook. And things were great for a time. But as I said, it was out in the boonies, it was really quiet, and Brandy got pretty bored. So eventually Gator sold that house and they moved back to civilization. Gator got a really nice condo in a gated upscale community in Carlsbad, like between Oceanside and San Diego. And this condo was maybe a block from the beach. It was in a great spot. Brandy and Gator were like peas and carrots together all the time. They partied a lot, and they partied together. They did a lot of drugs together. They would get drunk down at the bar at the end of the street, and then they would come home and get busy all night long, if you know what I'm saying. Gator would fly Brandy out to meet him on tour stops in Europe and South America. He bought her 2 cars. He like spared no expense when it came to Brandy. I would say that they were sincerely in love, although very young and very stupid. Brandy loved being the girlfriend of a famous, rich, professional skateboarder. Gator and Brandy were an ideal 80s couple, and they would model together on several Vision campaigns. Gator appeared in the 1989 Christian Slater classic Gleaming the Cube. I don't think he had a speaking role. I think it was more like stunt skating. Anyway, but Brandy and Gator did actually appear in Tom Petty's 1989 music video for the song Free Fallin'. Pretty sure that Gator's the one in the teal shorts and Brandy's the one sitting on the edge of the ramp. I mean, how perfectly 80s, right? Like totally rad. It was. But as time went on, the skateboarding world started to change. So Gator's specialty was vert, like vertical. Skate ramps, the big U-shape ramp, bowls, things like that. And as superhuman as these vert skaters were, and as much as their fans bought the merch and made them rich and famous, access to giant skate ramps and elaborate skate parks with bowls and all that stuff, it wasn't widely available. So the fans started to pivot to something new. Street skating. In street skating, the obstacles are things like curbs, stairs, stair rails, things that exist out on the street. It was louder, it was edgier, it was more rebellious, and more appealing to angsty youth, especially going into the 90s. Vert skating and everything associated with it started to lose popularity. And as much as Gator excelled at vert skating, those skills did not translate at all to street skating. In the research, I actually saw an article that said he was comically unprepared to transition. The point is, he wasn't good anymore. And street style was just so different, and that included the lifestyle and merchandising aspect as well. His sales were down, everything was down, and Vision, the company that sponsored Gator and many other pros like him, was on the way to bankruptcy. So Gator's livelihood and his entire identity was on the verge of completely unraveling. Have I made it clear how much attention he needed and how much he really thrived and enjoyed the fame aspect and the adoration from the fans? It was very Tinkerbell vibes. If you don't applaud, he dies. So fast forward a little bit, and Gator was at a skate contest in Germany in the summer of 1990. He went on this total party bender, and he got absolutely shit-faced, probably high on everything that he can get his hands on. And he decided to jump out of a 2-story window, convinced that he could fly. He did not fly, but he did not die. He broke his fall on a wrought iron fence, impaling himself through his face, neck, arm, and he woke up the next morning having absolutely no memory of what happened. Well, he survived, and he was patched up pretty well by a plastic surgeon, but something shifted in Gator after that. Enter Augie Constantino. Augie Constantino was a skateboarder and a former pro surfer who had suffered something similar a few years before. He had been a hard partying type who decided to play car chicken with a friend. Well, the friend slammed right into him, and Augie was severely injured. It wrecked the muscles in his legs or something, and it ended his surfing career. Here's the thing about playing chicken. Whoever moves out of the way is the loser, but if you both don't move, nobody wins. It's so stupid. Anyway, Augie believed that he was saved by God so that he could become a messenger of the good word. He called himself the skateboard minister, and Augie introduced Mark to God the Father. So remember, Mark didn't grow up with a father in his household, and he didn't really have that kind of presence in his life outside of his brother. His career was dwindling, his popularity is dwindling, his money is dwindling. He had a pretty serious substance abuse problem and probably some undiagnosed mental illness. So Augie shows up at this perfect storm point in his life as this spiritual advisor. So now all of a sudden, Gator is reading the Bible all the time, trying to find meaning in his skateboarding, trying to dedicate his life to God, the Bible, Jesus. You know, all the religious things. It was also around this time that Gator decided to change his name. Not the Gator part. He actually dropped his last name and adopted his middle name, Anthony, in its place. And he said it was because he never really knew his father and had no relationship with his father, so why carry on his name? Fair enough, I guess. So now Mark is reborn, born again, whatever the term is. And he wasn't just like kind of into Christianity. He fully converted to like strict evangelical style Christianity. He was going to church all the time. In the same way that he went all in on skateboarding, he was fanatical about his new religious state. He started hosting Bible studies for his young fans that came to his skate contests. He carried a Bible all the time. It just seemed like he was desperately searching for meaning in his life, and he thought he'd found it. Some might say, Mark saw religion as another way to be a celebrity again, to align himself with something that he could use to get back the attention and the adoration that he used to have. And Mark had been dating Brandy McLean for like 4 years by now, and he decided that it was time for her to convert to Christianity too, that they needed to get married, and until they did that, they needed to abstain from sex. And Brandy was like, "Excuse me? I didn't sign up for this." Brandy was a party girl. She would admit that. He knows that. But Mark needed her, I guess, or wanted to control her. He became pretty violent with her and aggressive, demanding that she just comply. He dismissed her as immature and that if she wasn't ready to settle down, things between them were done. So Brandy got the message. She left. She moved out. She moved in with her parents who had recently relocated from Arizona to San Diego. While Mark was busy reading Bible verses to the local youth, Brandy met someone, a handsome surfer that was her age, you know, young, vibrant, energetic, and Mark did not like that. I mean, how dare Brandy rebound so quickly? He and Brandy weren't together anymore, but Brandy belonged to him. I mean, in his view. He started stalking Brandy. He was calling her all the time, leaving threatening messages. He was calling her new boyfriend's house, calling her new boyfriend's parents' house. He actually broke into Brandy's parents' home and took back everything that he gave to Brandy, stole it, you know, clothes, jewelry, her car. And one of the last times that Brandy spoke with Mark in person, he had threatened to kill her. He said that he would take her out into the middle of nowhere and he would do terrible sex things to her and then leave her out in the desert to die. And nobody would care because they would know that she deserved it. Well, Brandy reminded him during this little excursion that her mom knew that she was with him. So he took her home, and Brandy decided to flee to New York. She told no one except her parents. Well, on March 20th, 1991, Mark bumped into an old pal, 21-year-old Jessica Bergston, Brandy's best friend from Arizona. She had recently relocated to San Diego, and she was so new in town that Brandy didn't even know that she was there yet, and besides, Brandy was hiding out in New York and nobody knew about it, including Jessica. Well, Jessica asked Mark to show her around town, so they spent the day together on March 21st. He picked her up from her apartment in Pacific Beach, and then they had lunch at an Italian restaurant in La Jolla, and then afterward, Mark brought Jessica back to his condo in Carlsbad. They watched some videos, they had a few bottles of wine, and then, according to Mark, Jessica was all over him like stink on shit. But he was a devout Christian who didn't do those sorts of things, and he didn't want to seem invirtuous. Is that a word? Invirtuous, whatever. Never mind. That's a very interesting take considering having a bunch of wine with your ex-girlfriend's bestie, but like, okay. Anyway, at some point he had gone out to his car and he got the club. Do you guys remember these things? These things? It's a steering wheel lock to make it so somebody can't steal your car. He brought the club inside and he whacked Jessica over the head with it until she was unconscious. Then he handcuffed her, dragged her up to his bedroom, cut her clothing off with scissors, and then sexually assaulted her for hours. Real Christian, right? Well, that's not all, because Jessica at this point was like begging for him to stop, to let her go, and she was occasionally screaming. Mark was afraid that the neighbors were going to hear her, so he put her inside a surfboard bag and strangled her until she was quiet. I mean, there are no witnesses except for Mark, so we don't really know what happened. Could that have been a consensual encounter that turned into something else? But possibly. But like, also, why was she struck over the head and handcuffed and all of these other things? We don't know. Anyway, so now she's permanently quiet, and he loaded the bag up into the trunk of his car and he drove out to the desert. He stopped in a remote area and he pulled over, dug a very shallow grave with a shovel that he had brought with him, and then he buried her, then drove off to Phoenix, Arizona. He tossed evidence out the window as he was going. He disposed of that shovel in some trash can in downtown Phoenix, and then he drove back to his condo to clean up the mess, like rented a carpet cleaner and everything. So some speculate that Mark attacked Jessica because he felt that she was somehow responsible for Brandy leaving him. You know, not all this crazy personality and lifestyle change. Some speculate that Jessica reminded him of Brandy and he killed Jessica as a proxy. He hated her because she was just like Brandy, you know, only out for partying and sex. Jezebel! Either way, after Jessica disappeared and stopped answering phone calls from her dad, her father flew from Arizona to San Diego to look for her. So Jessica's father, Stephen Bergston, papered San Diego County with missing persons posters. He spoke with police, he talked to her friends, he even met with Mark to ask if he'd seen her, which, of course, he denied. 2 months went by. So one evening, Mark was out with Augie Constantino, and they popped into a 7-Eleven that was a couple of blocks from Mark's place. It was one of their favorite places to proselytize to young skaters since it was near the beach, next to a pizza parlor. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. Also, these skater kids knew that Gator was famous, and they'd do anything to just talk to him. So anyways, Mark and Aggie are Bible beaten when a young girl walked in. So Augie told the girl to go change into some real clothes and then come back so that they could talk about Jesus. Apparently she was wearing like a mini skirt and he disapproved. A great idea. Let's insult the girl so that she'll come back and listen to you, asshole. Anyway, the girl was like, I'm good. I don't have anything to worry about. Augie pointed up at the bulletin board that had these like missing posters. A missing poster for Jessica Bergston. He said, what about her? She didn't have anything to worry about and now she's missing. And she's probably dead. Well, the girl, of course, ignored Augie and left the store, but Mark was noticeably and weirdly frozen. Well, a few days later, Mark tearfully confessed to Augie that he had killed the girl in the 7-Eleven poster. So Augie drove Mark to the police station and Mark told them everything. He let 2 months go by before he did this, and it wasn't seeing the poster at the 7-Eleven a block from his house. It was Augie, his spiritual advisor, pointing it out to him that somehow triggered something. Whatever. Mark has gone to the police, and the police were taken aback. Here they had someone, a famous someone, a local celebrity, show up and drop this bombshell. They didn't even know that a body had been found about a month earlier or that it was even connected. So let's rewind a little bit to April 10th, 1991. A young boy was riding his four-wheeler in Shell Canyon, the remote desert area of Imperial County in the southeast corner of California, when he found skeletal human remains poking out of what looked like a shallow grave. The body was so badly decomposed that it was impossible to make any kind of real identification, but investigators were later able to determine that it was the body of a young woman. So after Mark made this confession to the police department and later led them out to where the body was buried, they were able to connect the dots. So that skeleton that was found had already been recovered by police, but the other evidence at the site confirmed Mark's story. But when investigators searched Mark's condo, they found significant blood evidence and evidence of cleanup, which is a clear indicator of an attempt to conceal the crime. The story was soon blasted all over the news, and it sent shockwaves through the skating community. Some fans couldn't believe it, and they wore shirts that said "Free Mark Anthony." But the violent aspect of the crime wasn't helpful to skateboarding's image at large, and some people in the media claimed that skateboarding was a threat to youth in America. But most of the skaters in the scene disavowed Gator completely. 24-year-old Mark Gator Anthony Rogowski pled guilty. His lawyer tried to steer him away from that, saying that they could beat this rape charge since there wasn't any real evidence to support that, and further, her death could have been an accident. Mark leaned on his newfound faith to guide the way, and he offered apologies and contrition for his act, and on March 6th, 1992, Mark was sentenced to 31 years to life for the first-degree murder of Jessica Bergston. Well, since his incarceration, Mark has spent a lot of time surrounding himself with other born-again Christians in the prison. He's also doubled down on Jessica's behavior the night of the murder, calling her a purring feline that was intoxicated and belligerent and just like threw herself at him. And, you know, she must have suffocated or had a seizure or a stroke.
Oh, see, there you go. There you go. The lies. There.
As good as Mark thinks he is, he's still playing this blame game like a piece of shit. Anywho, twice the State Board of Parole hearings has granted Mark Rogowski parole, but the decisions were reversed by California Governor Gavin Newsom on the basis that Mark's purported rehabilitation is not sincere and he continues to be evasive and dishonest about the details of the crime. The latest parole suitability hearing that was held on November 7th, 2024 resulted in a denial, so there's that. And that is the story of Mark Gator Rogowski. Okay, if you want to know any of the makeup that I used in today's look, then look down in the description box. Everything is linked. If you have a Crue Trime story that you want to recommend to me, also look down in the description box. There is a link to a Google Doc. If you click it, you can fill it in with all the dirty details. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for hanging out today and for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this one, then consider subscribing to this channel before you leave today. What are you doing? I upload new videos here on YouTube every week, and you can follow me on all of the other socials as well. That is it for now. I will catch you next time in the next video. Bye! He was a skater boy. He said, "See you later, boy." Substances in the mountains that he had reached fame and fortune. Okay. Here is You'll never miss one of my tarot. I feel like I'm a little out of practice. I feel like I haven't done this in a while. Okay.